The Jasper Water Department has issued a boil order in the wake of water quality concerns. More on that. Plus, DuBois County is now part of the state All-In program, and Purdue Extension educator Jan Dugan is tonight's guest on Inform. All of that and much more is up next here on the 18 WJTS News. Hello, I'm Bradford Raths. Officials with the Jasper Water Utility have issued a boil order for the city in the wake of issues with manganese levels in the city's water supply. The department is currently working through issues with the quality of water that comes from the Patoka River. During a press conference held earlier today, Gas and Water Manager Ernie Hinkle stated the problems began last week when the city began its hydrant flushing program for the fall. He says the department got calls about dirty water initially, but it wasn't seen as much of a problem early on, as dirty water during hydrant flushing is normal. However, Hinkle says more and more calls began to come in from everywhere in town. He says plant operators began monitoring things more closely and found a high turbidity issue in the plant yesterday.
Basically what this does, it cuts back the chlorine that we put into the water to sanitize the water, to get rid of all the bacteria and such. The more turbidity, the more chlorine you have to add. It eventually got to the point where we couldn't add enough chlorine in order to keep what's called the chlorine residual up to the point of keeping it safe.
Hinkle says inspectors with the Indiana Department of Environmental Management, along with various engineers, were called in to help with this issue. The boil order is likely to last at least 3 days. Meanwhile, Jasper Mayor Terry Seitz says the boil order is more of an inconvenience than a major problem.
I think it'd be very fair to say that this would not qualify as a red level emergency alert. This is, however, a serious concern, and we take it at that. Ultimately, we have water. We have water pressure. We have the ability to bathe, to fight fires, to serve our industry in the water that they need, and our businesses to an extent as well.
DuBois County Health Department Administrative Director Donna Oding also took part in this morning's press conference. She says boiling water being used for cooking and drinking will remain critical.
Our message to everybody, regardless of whether you're just a homeowner, you operate a business, whatever it is, you have to boil your water for 5 minutes. That isn't, you should boil it. We are saying you must boil your water for 5 minutes. That is a full rolling boil.
Oding also advised folks to throw away any old ice cubes they may have in the freezer. She is advising folks not to make new ice cubes until the boil order is lifted. Water for cleaning, washing clothes, or taking showers with is okay to use, though you should check the water to ensure that it's not cloudy. Now, several entities around the area are stepping up to help out with water. The DuBois water system is providing water to residents who bring containers to the intersection of Crossroads and 2nd Avenues near the Easttown Bowling Alley. The Jasper Water Department has set the limit at 5 gallons of water per person. Exemptions can be granted by going to the water utility office along 2nd Avenue and getting a voucher. Further questions may be directed to the Jasper Water Department at 482-5252. A Huntingburg man was taken into custody yesterday afternoon after he was found to be out of control for unknown reasons. Just before 3:45 p.m., Huntingburg police were called to a home in the 100 block of South Chestnut Street on that report. When they arrived, police were told that 48-year-old Donald Cawthorn and 70-year-old Robert DeBoard, also of Huntingburg, had been traveling in a vehicle together when Cawthorn began hitting DeBoard for an unknown reason. The two calmed down and returned to the home. At that point, after returning, Cawthorn became agitated again and started breaking things inside the home before police arrived. After briefly detaining Cawthorn, police decided to file charges against him. Cawthorn was taken into custody and lodged in the DuBois County Security Center. He faces a Class A misdemeanor for battery. A Jasper man was taken into custody after a verbal dispute turned violent. At 2:30 this morning, Jasper police were called to a verbal dispute that had taken place at an unidentified home in Jasper. A woman at that home told police that she and 23-year-old Robert McKee had gotten into a verbal spat prior to officers arriving. As McKee left the residence before police got there, he then punched out the rear window of the woman's vehicle. Police later found McKee at a residence in the 500 block of West 43rd Street. He was then questioned about the broken window. During the investigation, police say McKee did not cooperate and struggled with officers at times. He was then taken into custody and lodged in the Du Bois County Security Center. McKee faces charges for criminal mischief and for resisting law enforcement. Future energy concerns in the Northeast Du Bois School Corporation are now being addressed. Last night, the Northeast Du Bois School Board approved advertising for a request for qualifications. That request allows for the board to hire a qualified heating and air provider to resolve the issues. Now, the corporation has dealt with issues surrounding heating and air for the last several years. Superintendent Bill Hoaksong says the heating and air units in several buildings are nearly 20 years old and are on their last legs. Hoaksong and Corporation Maintenance Director Marvin Betts have since been discussing solutions to the issues. Hoaksong says seeking the qualifications is a big step for the corporation. He says the district will have to be creative in finding solutions in light of the district's tight budget.
It could be small, but we know it's going to be large. We even know that what we save through the refinancing is not going to cover all our needs. So we're wanting a kind of a timeline of some short term to the long term, and until we can, work on the next process.
Now, the effort to replace the heating and air systems for the district is being made possible through a refinancing of the district's debt service bonds. That refinancing was done back in May. The cost of any work would be covered by funds from the refinancing. That refinancing made about $870,000 in all available to the district for this, as well as other related projects. Well, Du Bois County is now all in. Last night marked the county launch event for the All In initiative of Indiana Humanities. The event was held from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Center for Technology, Innovation, and Manufacturing on the Vincennes University Jasper campus. Now, the launch was an opportunity for folks of all ages to get involved with the interactive All In program. Indiana Humanities designed the web-based program with the idea of connecting people with their communities ahead of the state's bicentennial celebration coming up in 2016. The program accomplishes this through 16 interactive challenges. The challenges are divided into categories such as Explore, Discover, and Dream. Kira Amstutz is the president and CEO of Indiana Humanities. She says the organization is pleased with the mix of people who showed up to last night's launch.
We are really excited that we're seeing such a great cross-section of the community. We're seeing younger people, older people, and folks that are really interested in learning more about Indiana and about Du Bois County.
Some of the challenges at the launch included ethnic food and music, family stories, a timeline challenge called Indianiversary, book donations, inspirational quotes, and a board to recognize folks in the community who are shaping the future of Indiana. Vincennes University Jasper Campus Dean Dr. Alan Johnson says he was pleased with the overall turnout. He says many in the community came together to plan the event and to make it a reality.
Planning came together beautifully. The nice thing about Du Bois County is when somebody comes to us with an idea, all it takes is a couple of emails and phone calls, and all of a sudden we have a planning committee together that represents multiple organizations.
Now, several organizations partnered with Indiana Humanities for last night's launch. These included VUJC, the municipalities of Jasper, Huntingburg, and Ferdinand, the Jasper Chamber of Commerce, Purdue Extension, and the Sisters of St. Benedict. Now, if you are unable to make it to last night's launch, you can still get involved with the All In initiative. You can go to indianahumanities.org/all-in to do so. Police say the SUV belonging to a southwestern Indiana woman missing for the last month has been pulled from a lake with a body presumed to be hers inside. The Warwick County Sheriff's Department says the SUV, owned by 27-year-old Christy Kelly of Boonville, was detected yesterday by a private sonar search group in a small lake a couple of miles south of Boonville. Sheriff Brett Cruz says clothing on the body matches what Kelly was wearing when she was last seen. Cruz says investigators found no immediate signs of foul play. Hundreds of volunteers had joined searches in the area just east of Evansville since the mother of two was last seen leaving a Boonville Veterans Lodge at about 1:30 in the morning on August 15th. Finally this evening, a federal judge has reinstated 4 same-sex couples' claim that Indiana's refusal to recognize out-of-state gay marriages is unconstitutional. Judge Richard Young said in a ruling yesterday that he reinstated the lawsuit because Governor Mike Pence had shown that he had power to enforce the ban, despite claims that he had no such control. Young says Pence demonstrated his authority in 2 memos from his office to executive agencies, instructing them on what to do following a ruling that struck down the ban. That case is now on appeal. The case on which Young ruled Tuesday is separate from that one. Young did not reinstate a part of the lawsuit that challenged the general constitutionality of the ban. The Attorney General's office says it disagrees with Young's order. All right, coming up after the break, your local forecast, sports with Kurt Guxell, and Inform with Jan Dugan. That's all up next here on the 18 WJTS News. Local people watching local people.